Okay, I'm fixing to do my introduction to this video, but I wanted to say up front that this thing behind me in the video looks crooked, but there's no way I can refilm it. So I don't know, this may even look crooked. It looks straight to me, but it might be crooked in both of the videos. I apologize if that kind of drives you crazy. Try to ignore it. Also, this video is way longer than I thought it would be, but there's so much to it that if you want to watch the whole thing, that would be great. Just so you know everything, and if you're curious. And I don't know, I just wanted to tell you, I'm sorry it was so long, but it took that long to explain it because it's been crazy. All right, here you go. Hey everyone, Terry Gigi here. I decided to come back to YouTube and let you know where I've been and what I've been up to. It's been really nuts. And in case some of you are upset that I haven't, told you everything or told you why I haven't been on YouTube, I just thought I owed you an explanation. But anytime I'm not here regularly, there's something going on. And I can tell you that I'm fixing to tell you a story of the last 4 months. And that's how long I've been gone from YouTube. So here we go. I'm just gonna start at the beginning and let you know what's been going on and how through the Lord you can get through anything, no matter how many things there are in a row, crises and sadness and all these different things, you can get through it. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. And then we'll talk about the rest of my channel next week. All right, so back in September, let's see, in July, we went on a trip to Colorado and had just a great time. Someday I may show you some footage of that trip because it was an amazing place and trip that we went on. Or maybe I already did that. I don't remember what my last video was even about. But in September, we had a kind of a college trip planned. We were going to San Marcos, and Green, Texas. We were going to go to a concert, Three Dog Night, and everyone was going to be back. And I don't mind telling y'all, now this is Scott's fraternity. I don't mind telling y'all that these guys are getting old. So this was going to be the last, this was actually a trip we already had planned with to see Jerry Jeff Walker in 2020, got canceled. So now we're going to do this, right? So we're just rocking along in September. Well, we got a call September 7th we got a call September 8th that in the middle of the night, my dad had fallen. If you haven't been following me, you may not know that my dad has dementia. He's had it for a long time. And they had told us in the last year that he was having some trouble swallowing. And that was that's a last stage thing that starts to happen. Falling, having trouble swallowing, which I didn't know that. So anyway, he fell, they took him to the hospital. My brother called me at 7 that morning and said, Dad's in the hospital and everything. So Scott and I kind of started packing our bag but kind of halfway packing our bag, ran in and threw some laundry in case we needed to leave. And then as the day progressed, they found that he had pneumonia, and they explained that was due to not swallowing properly, and that this was kind of probably going to be a new cycle that was going to happen because here he already had it, and it's extremely painful. So, but when you have dementia that bad, you feel pain, but you don't. I don't know how much you explain to people what's going on in your body if you really understand it at that point. But my dad was still talking and everything. Well, by the end of the day, we were talking about hospice. And if you don't know a lot about hospice, don't judge until you've been through it. It's so different than I thought and that I understood. And if you ever find yourself having to go through that, I have a book recommendation right quick. One of my friends just happened to tell me about this book like a week before, which was so strange. And it's called Midwife for Souls. And it's about hospice care. And it's written by a lady that was a hospice nurse, And So the minute they started talking about hospice, I ordered the book on Amazon and I had it sent to my brother's house because we were leaving. Well, because they said, if we put him in the hospital, they're going to do everything humanly possible to keep him alive. But he's not going to get better, honestly. And so we talked to his doctor, and 2 or 3 different people individually came in the room and suggested the same thing. So we thought, maybe we need to listen to this. And then they said, if you change your mind, you can bring him back to the hospital. That's no problem. So it took all day for him to be released. And we left the next morning to Austin. And I went and saw him that night. And he was sitting at a table, just kind of hunched over. And hospice had already come in and put a hospital bed sort of thing. It didn't look like a hospital bed, but it was a bed that had sides and was easy to deal with in his room. And he still had his full-size bed and all the rest of his furniture. His room looked the same. Well, I went in. It was late. I said hello. I left. And then we went back the next day. By the next day, all the grandkids had come in because we said, if you want to see Granddaddy. Oh, and the hospice people said, we have no timeline here. There is no timeline. He could be okay for 2 or 3 weeks. There's just no timeline. Well, all the grandkids, some of the great-grandkids, everybody was there. We were all in my dad's room. There were I think I counted 13 of us in his room. And we had plenty of room. He had a huge room. And everyone talked to him. He didn't talk a lot, but he looked at me at one point. Everybody was chit-chatting, and he said, family is everything, and these are really good people. So we knew that he understood what was happening, that this was family. And he knew, of course, he always knew my mom. And so we all hung out most of that day, and I wrote notes down here, and that was on that Friday. That was on Saturday. So Saturday night, we had decided the minute hospice came. Now, they weren't in the room all the time. It wasn't that kind of hospice where someone's actively dying. And so, and they told us he's not actively dying. And so, but we decided at that point that my dad would not be alone again at all. So my mom spent the first night with him. Got up the next day. He had slept soundly. She came back. It was so exhausting for my mom. It just was not going to happen. My mom's 81, so or 82. I can't remember. She's 82. It's very difficult for her. So she came home and just went to bed, and Scott and I spent the whole day, and Lexi was there. She ended up staying a week. My other daughter ended up staying a week. And some people went home and then came back the next weekend. But Scott spent Sunday night with him. So that was day 2. And then I was going to spend Monday night with him. Well, those first two nights he was fine. He's not talking a lot, okay? And he can eat and drink anything he wants. There's no refusing a person on hospice food or water, anything like that. He gets pain medication, everything. Well, up to that point, he wasn't complaining too much about pain, but he kept saying his side hurt. And that was probably, I can't remember what they said. He was coughing. His side was hurting. Well, the night I stayed was horrible. He was in so much pain, and I was by myself, and I didn't know that I could call hospice in the middle of the night. But there's people on staff in the memory care unit, and he kept trying to get up, and he was so weak he shouldn't get up, and blah blah blah. Anyway, and I would give him a little bit of yogurt, whatever he wanted, ice cream, yogurt, it didn't matter, but you had to be so careful because he wasn't swallowing right, and he would have a little bit of water. By this time, he was just getting sponge water. Anyway, about 3 a.m., he was in so much pain. I just went out and I said, get whatever you have. So they immediately called hospice because they weren't realizing how much pain he was in and how horrible it was. I mean, I was holding his hands. I was bawling. It was horrible. It was really bad. They gave him some morphine and he went right to sleep. I think he'd already had some, but he needed a little more. He went right to sleep and I was able to sleep from 3 to 7. Both of us slept. Scott came in at 7 a.m., brought me some coffee. Now he's going to stay. I went back to my mom's, which was across the parking lot, to her building and took a shower and laid down maybe an hour. And then her and I went back. And then we stayed all day. And then at 5 o'clock, we decided we were going to go and eat dinner at my mom's place at the dining room. And Scott said, y'all go eat dinner and just bring me back, a dinner. And he said, I'm going to stay tonight because I had stayed the night before and I was like loopy. I was so exhausted from the stress of everything. Now my dad is starting to breathe really weird. And they said, this is completely normal. It's okay. This can go on for a while. But it was the worst sound you've ever heard. And now we know, I think I looked it up because we were thinking, what is going on? And no, we didn't know at that point. No one said the term. They just said this is normal, because he's the swallowing issue. It's just your body's just making noise. He didn't want anything to eat or drink anymore. Nothing. He said no each time. And so that freaked me out. I call hospice. They said, or they were there and they said, think about it this way. Why do you eat and drink? Because you're living and you want to live and your body craves food and liquids to stay alive. Well, when your body knows it's dying, it knows it doesn't need that stuff anymore. So that was weird, I have to say, but we weren't refusing anything, Then something else that I learned is when they first brought us hospice, when I was still sitting here, I said, no way, what's going on? Why are we doing this? I didn't understand the situation fully because I wasn't right there in the hospital with my brother and my dad and my mom. And that night, I woke up. I had a nightmare or something, and I woke up out of a sound sleep. And I thought, oh my God, if he falls out of bed and breaks his leg, does he just lay there? So 7 a.m., I'm calling hospice the next morning from the car on our way. And they said, no, honey, no. If he needs any hospital care, we go. It's your decision. It's y'all's decision. This is not, you don't sign up for hospice and stay. It's just that you can't be in hospice and at the hospital at the same time. So it was clearer and clearer as the days went on. Well, so my mom and I left, this is day 3, to go get dinner and get Scott some dinner. Sorry, I need the caffeine, y'all. We crossed the parking lot, went up the elevator, got in her apartment. My phone rang. It was Scott. He said, you've got to come back now. And I said, why? What happened? He said, he's gone. I said, gone? Because gone, He said, he died. I'm telling you, we hadn't been gone 10 minutes. Then I had to tell my mom. And I said, I'm going back over. Do you want to come? And my mom said, I can't do it. And I said, okay, it's okay. So Lexi, you stay with Grandmommy. I ran across, came in the room, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And within about 10 minutes, my mom came in. And what was so clear to me when I walked in that room, and Scott had confirmed with the staff that he was gone. And hospice was on their way because they weren't expecting it like that it was going to happen so fast. They were on the way. They showed up like within minutes. They might have even been there when I got there. But anyway, when I looked at my dad, I thought it would freak me out. I thought it would be terrible. It was so clear to me, like sometimes you see things with a God clarity. You know what I'm saying? Like you're seeing the reality of this world that we live in. And when I looked at him, he looked exactly the same. He just died. But the life was clearly gone. Now, he was extremely quiet the night I was with him. The night before, once he got that morphine, he was breathing quietly. You would have to go up and make sure you knew he was breathing because he was so quiet. And his breathing was not, it was kind of shallow. Well, this breathing, but now I didn't have to lean over to see if he was breathing. I didn't have to call an expert in. I knew the life was gone just by looking at him. The life was gone. So when my mom walked in and she walked over to the bed, I said, Mom, look, he's not here anymore. He's gone. He's in heaven. He's not here. The person that we knew is not here. He's gone to another place that we'll go someday. So anyway, we stayed there. His doctor showed up right away, just zoomed over there. The doctor that had been seeing him for 2 years, and he was so comforting to my mom, but he had to actually pronounce my dad gone, dead. And he was just so caring and so loving. And it makes me cry now because it helped my mom so much. But he listened for a long time. And that's the reason Scott had called in the staff. Even though Scott had checked him, he thought he was gone. But he said there was no way I was going to call y'all and say that without knowing for sure. Anyway, so that was official. And that was it. And so we called everybody. This was on a Tuesday afternoon, and we planned the funeral for Thursday. In fact, my brother and sister-in-law and Scott and I had already gone to the funeral home and completely planned the funeral with my mom's permission, should it come. We had it pre-planned, but this was going to be a week, a month. We had no idea. 6 weeks. I mean, we had no idea how long it would be. But we had done everything, and that was such a help. So we spent the rest of that week getting ready, making calls. I was in charge of the photo montage, and I'm telling you, the stress of that about killed me. But on the day of the funeral, everybody came back that had been there the weekend before. You know, the grandkids, the great-grand, everybody came back that had left. And we just had a small funeral. Because, you know, most of their friends were still in Texas. But, you know, y'all, when you're in your 80s, you've lost a lot of your friends. There's not that many people around anymore. So, the funeral was amazing. The photo montage was beautiful. I was so proud when it showed. It was of my dad from little boy and with his parents. And then most of it was with Jeff and I as kids and our vacations and everything. And then a lot of him and my mom after he retired, because he retired like in his early 50s, I think. He did early retirement. So they'd had a lot of vacations in there. So that was all of that. We stayed another week after the funeral. Well, it just so happens, before all this, we had a cruise planned with Scott's parents and sister and brother-in-law and niece. An 8-day, 7-night cruise out of Galveston. So the big discussion then was, should we go? And everyone said, yes, just go. Just go. There's nothing more you can do. My mom was doing okay. She probably would have wanted to be alone because we were there all the time. Scott and I were there all the time and other people in and out. So we finally decided to go. So we drove to Galveston. So we've been in Austin from the 8th through about the 23rd. And then we drove on the 23rd to Galveston, spent the night, and got on the ship on the 24th. And that cruise went till October 3rd. So now we haven't been home in a full month. It's a full month now that we have been gone from this house. But we did, when my dad fell and we were jumping in the car, we did decide to bring the cat with us because she can stay at my mom's apartment. So we had to leave the cat with her to go on the cruise, which wasn't the original plan at all. But she could take care of the cat the rest of the till October. Then we got in from the cruise. The cruise was okay. It wasn't horrible. I had some hard moments of grief alone in the cabin. 2 nights I didn't go to dinner, the big dinners they have. I didn't go 2 nights. Scott just went with his family went. And I had some time, and it was good time. It was really good time, and I did enjoy just staring out the big, huge. We didn't have a balcony. We had a big, huge porthole. Like you could sit inside of this thing because it was real wide. The setback where the window was, and it was just gorgeous. I could sit in there and look at the ocean. So that was fine. So we had to drive back to Austin. So we got home, and we drove back here to Alabama, and we were home about 5 or 6 days. And then we drove to Florida because we already had a trip planned to babysit Lorelai and to take her to Disney World and to go over to Anna Maria Island and stay at a beach house for a couple of nights with our friends. So we did all that. And we got home from that on the 18th. So we were home a week. No, we were home just about 5 days, went back to Florida. We were gone 5 days in Florida. We were home a day. And our daughter called, and there's a huge situation in Florida. We got back in the car the very next day and drove right back. We were home 2 nights. We drove right back to Florida and spent a full week. Unexpected, clearly. So we did that, and that was extremely stressful. It was the worst. It was the worst. It was so stressful. And I'll talk about that at some point, maybe. So we got back we were driving back from this extra week in Florida. Driving home, I remember it clearly, we were in a big rainstorm. And really bad rain, and the phone rang, and it was Scott's mom. Now we're driving back from Florida. Texas is that way. Our home is in the middle. And his dad had fallen, ER. She said, I don't know what's going on, blah, 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 but he's hurt bad. And I'm just like, I'm still completely traumatized from the week in Florida. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, put that aside. Now we got something new, another thing. So I don't even remember. We got home, we threw the laundry in again, which we had done already twice in this whole, threw the laundry in again. She calls back and she says, everything's fine. No. Yeah. He's going back to rehab. He's going to rehab. He broke his shoulder in 3 places, but he's fine. They've got the shoulder immobilized, and now he's going to a rehab center, like the next day. So we said, okay, do we need to come right now? And she said, no, take a couple days. Let him get, and that happened on October 22nd. And we had gotten back from our week with, anyway, 1 day. Okay, forget the timeline. Just know that we were not home again. So on the 22nd, we were driving home on the 20th. On the 22nd, we drove to San Antonio. Took the cat with us again because we had no idea how long we were going to be gone. Because the second day we were home and thinking, okay, we have a little bit of time, he got pneumonia in rehab. Or they don't know where he got it, but the second day in rehab, they found pneumonia, back to the ER. We throw our clothes in our bags and we leave and we go back on the 22nd of October. We're with him. It is horrible. We thought he was going to die. There was one point that this nurse told us that he could be going into congestive heart failure. I'm bawling in the hall. It's just so much. My dad just died the month before. It's been like 5 weeks. Long story short, he lived. He lived. And he got through it. And then it just so happens that before all of this, before my dad thing happened, we had bought tickets to go see Elton John. Oh, by the way, I told you that we were going to go to the big college party in Austin. Of course, that whole thing we did not do. We did not do that. We didn't go. And everybody understood because I think it happened the day after, 2 days after my dad died is when we were supposed to be over across town. So we have Elton John tickets in San Antonio. And at the time we bought them back in the summer, we said, oh, that'll be great. We can just, because there was nowhere close to me that we could go. And it was literally last chance to see Elton John in America in a regular concert venue. I know he's still going to perform some, but it won't be like this. So we bought the tickets and we said, we'll combine it. We'll go see my mom. We'll go see your parents. It'll be great. This is summertime. Okay, so now the concert is in 2 days. We're in the hospital. We'd been there 3 days. And Scott's dad knew about the concert. And he looked at me and he said, he couldn't talk very well. And he said, don't miss Elton John. And I said, don't worry about it. We're not concerned about that right now because we were not planning on going. And he said, no, don't miss Elton John. I said, don't worry about it. And he said, I've never really cared for him. And I just cracked up. And I said, my dad couldn't stand him because he was my idol my whole life. Not idol, that's a bad word. He was my GOAT. My greatest of all time was Elton John. Everybody knows it. Okay, so 2 nights later, it's the day of the concert. And Scott said, visiting hours are over here at 7. You have to leave. The concert's at 8:30 or 8. He said, from the hospital to the venue was 15 minutes to get to downtown San Antonio. He said, let's go. It's going to be, and Gene Scott's dad had totally, not recovered, but he was way better. He's eating, sleeping, talking, breathing fine. The pneumonia is clearing. His shoulder's still like this. So we decided that we would go. So Scott's mom said, y'all go on home at 6 p.m. She says, y'all go. It's fine. Y'all go home, get cleaned up, and go to the concert. So that's what we did. We went home, back to the house. We got cleaned up, threw an outfit on. I would have normally planned my concert outfit a little bit. So we're driving to the venue and we're starving. So we were going to go to this barbecue place that Scott knew about from high school. That's by the stadium. Well, it was gone. Anyway, we had to when I looked it up, on the way, I looked it up on my phone. I said, Scott, it's closed permanently closed. So we're like, oh my gosh. Sometimes, sporting events, there's going to be food, but concerts, you don't always know if there's going to be food at a concert. And so I said, we got to get something to eat. And so he said, well, I got to get gas. So he pulls into this gas station. I know this video is really long, but I'm almost finished. Pulls into this gas station, and it's super janky, y'all. There's bars on the windows of the whole place. It doesn't look that safe. And I said, I'm going to go in and get us something to eat, some snacks or something, just in case there's no food at the concert. So I went in this place, y'all. It is so, but it had so much alcohol and nobody's speaking English, which is typical in San Antonio, that there's a lot of Spanish because that's who, Hispanic, Spanish, whatever you want to call it, that's who settled there. I'm never sure of the right term, don't want to offend, but they were speaking Spanish. And so I'm walking around, and I didn't even know you could sell this kind of alcohol in a gas station. And there's this huge, giant metal thing full of ice with beer all in it, iced down. And I've always thought that's odd that you're not supposed to drink and drive, but they're selling iced down beer at the place where you're getting your gas. I just think there's something wrong with that picture. So I'm scanning the place and I see wine. And so I bought a 4-pack of Sutter Home of the individual wines, Sutter Home Chardonnay. I bought a bag of Chex Mix. I bought a bag of cashews, and I bought Reese's peanut butter cups. So this is going to be, we're going to tailgate. I get in the car and I said, Scott, we're going to tailgate, because we got to the concert like an hour and a half early because we just went on over there. And we backed in so we could watch everybody pulling in, because we were on the first row. So we were watching, just people watching, drinking our wine and eating our snacks. And it was hilarious. So, and then I'm looking at myself going, we didn't dress right, Scott. I mean, there's people dressed up. At least I should have brought one of my feather boas, but I didn't. It was here at home. I didn't think about it. And like I'm saying, like Rocket Man, okay? There were people dressed like a rocket man, like an astronaut. I mean, there were people dressed in all kind of ways. It was so fun. Well, by the time we both had 2 servings of wine, we were so glad that we went. It felt like we were on another planet, right? So we went in, there was a little bit of food. We got nachos and stuff like that. And we didn't need anything else to drink because we'd had our 2 glasses of wine. It was so much fun, y'all. The concert was, we were both shocked at how good it was. Now, if you watched it on Disney Plus, that was terrible. It was the same exact concert. His voice wasn't right till about song 4. It didn't translate at all on TV. It didn't feel the same. It didn't look the same. If the music's not coming through your body like it does at a concert, you're not getting the full thing. So don't go, if you saw it on Disney Plus, don't judge it by that. It was phenomenal. So anyway, we went back home. We did the concert. It was so worth it. Oh my gosh, my attitude was just like, I'm on a desert island and I'm doing something different. And so that was great. And what's interesting too is both Scott and I had seen Elton John in college, not together, in San Antonio. And so it was like 42 years later, or it was probably 45 years later, here we are in San Antonio seeing Elton John together. So that was really cool. So we ended up staying. We got there the 22nd. We stayed till November 8th. And we headed home November 8th. We were home about a week, and I had already planned an early Thanksgiving. So the week before Thanksgiving, all my kids but Wes were able to come, and the grandkids came, and we had an early Thanksgiving here. And that's because Craig can't get off after Thanksgiving working for Costco. You have to be back. You can't miss between the day after Thanksgiving to the day after Christmas. You can't take vacation or personal days. So anyway, they came, and that was a nice little visit. And then what else have we done? So that was the week before Thanksgiving. And then, oh my gosh, y'all, I forgot to even figure out what we did in December. Okay, so we were home the first 3 weeks. I remember now. We were home the first 2.5 weeks of December, and then we headed back to Austin. We needed to see my mom, because now we haven't seen my mom since September, because we didn't get over there to her while we were there for his dad. So we left. We went to my mom's the week before Christmas, the week and a half before Christmas. And we spent a lot of time with my brother, and we had a little party, and we had a birthday party and did some really fun things. We went over and saw his dad in San Antonio, came back. What else did we do? Oh, and then we drove to Houston from San Antonio's 3 hour, from Austin, 3 hours, and we spent Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, the day after that with Megan, Craig, Luke, and Layla. And we had a really nice Christmas. It was just fantastic. It was just great to be with them. We hadn't spent Christmas with Luke and Layla in 2 years, so that was really fun. So we drove home, and I think we've been home since. Today's the 20th, but about 4 days ago, we got a call that Scott's dad is back in the hospital. I can't remember why. Pneumonia, again. Pneumonia. And kidneys. He's having trouble with his kidneys. But at this point, he's improved enough that they're going to take him back to rehab tomorrow. So we will be going back to San Antonio soon, sooner than later, but I'm not sure when. Scott already has a ticket to go there for a couple of weeks at the 1st of February. So now that's just 10 days away. So we'll see if we end up driving and not using his ticket, or if he goes ahead and goes by himself for a couple of weeks to take care of his mom and his dad. His mom just had eye surgery, major eye surgery. His sister's there. His sister's been there since Thanksgiving. So she's really there. It's just so nice because we've had so many other things. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. We've been back to Florida the second week of January. We were in Florida. I forgot about that. Helping my daughter again for a week. And again, extremely, extremely stressful, but we are making it. So yeah, we've had another trip. And if you've stayed this long, I applaud you. This is such a long video, but I wanted to catch you up, and I wanted to just spew all this out. And I don't know what my next video is going to be about, but I will tell you this. The Lord has stuck by me, obviously, but my faith has grown in ways I did not expect through these 3 September, October, November, December. This is the 5th month now of major issues, and my faith has grown in a new way, and that's what I really want to share with you next. So I will do that, and I might show you a couple of things I got for Christmas that are my absolute faves, like 3 or 4 things, show you on that video. So anyway, thanks for hanging out if you're still here, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.